Adnan rubbed his eyes and checked the clock on his nightstand. 12:47 a.m. The knocking at his apartment door was so soft he almost thought he'd imagined it. Living in the outer colonies of Kepler 442b meant late-night disturbances were rare. Most of his human neighbors were asleep by now, and the local Zephyrian population kept to themselves. The knocking came again, barely audible against the gentle hum of the atmospheric processors outside. Adnan pulled on a shirt and padded barefoot to the door, activating the external camera feed on his wrist display. What he saw made him blink twice. A tiny figure stood in the hallway, no taller than his knee. Alvina, he recognized her immediately. She was one of the Zephyrians from the apartment complex with translucent blue skin that seemed to pulse with bioluminescent patterns when she was nervous. Right now, those patterns were racing across her form like lightning. Adnan had seen her around the building for months but had never spoken to her. The Zephyrians were notoriously private and most humans respected their boundaries. Their species had been through hell, refugees from a dying world grateful for sanctuary but wary of forming connections. He opened the door carefully, crouching down to her level. "Alvina? Is everything okay?" Her large, opalescent eyes looked up at him with a mixture of desperation and embarrassment. When she spoke, her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Adnan," she whispered, and he was surprised she knew his name. I need help. I am sorry to disturb you at this hour, but I have nowhere else to turn." "Of course, what's wrong?" She glanced around the empty hallway nervously. "May I come inside? It is sensitive." Adnan stepped back and she scurried in on her 4 delicate legs. Her movements were graceful despite her obvious distress. He closed the door and gestured toward his living room. "Would you like some water? Or—" He paused, realizing he knew nothing about Zephyrian dietary needs. "Water would be kind, thank you." As he fetched a small cup from his kitchen, Alvina settled onto his couch, looking impossibly small against the human-sized furniture. Her bioluminescent patterns had shifted to a deep purple, sadness if he remembered correctly from the cultural briefings. "I am dying," she said simply when he returned. Adnan nearly dropped the cup. "What? Should I call medical?" No. She held up a tiny hand. "Not dying as you understand it. My species? We have a unique biological need. Every few months we must synchronize." "Synchronize?" Alvina's pattern shifted to what looked like embarrassment, a soft pink glow. "We must share harmonic frequencies with another living being. It is how we regulate our bioelectrical systems. Without it, we become unstable and eventually fade." Adnan sat cross-legged on the floor to be closer to her eye level. "And you can't do this with other Zephyrians? There are only 12 of us in this colony," and her voice became even quieter. "I was exiled from my pod before we came here. The others will not synchronize with me." The weight of her isolation hit Adnan like a physical blow. "That's horrible." "I'm so sorry. It was my own doing," she said with dignity. "I questioned certain traditions, spoke against some of our leaders' decisions. But that does not make the consequence less fatal." Adnan leaned forward. "What do you need me to do?" Her patterns brightened with surprise and hope. "You would help, even though we have never spoken before?" "Of course. We're neighbors. More than that. We're both just trying to survive out here, right?" Alvina's entire body seemed to shimmer with emotion. "The synchronization. It requires physical contact and emotional openness. Many species find the process invasive or uncomfortable. I would place my hands on your temples and share your bioelectrical field for approximately 10 minutes. That's it? You would feel my emotions, my memories, as I would feel yours. It is intimate in a way that goes beyond physical touch." Adnan didn't hesitate. "If it will save your life, then let's do it." "You do not wish to consider—" "Alvina." He looked directly into her opalescent eyes. "You came to me at midnight because you were desperate enough to trust a human you'd never spoken to. That tells me everything I need to know about what you're going through. I'm not going to let you die because of some arbitrary social exile." Tears, or something like them, began to flow down her translucent cheeks. "Your species. You are remarkable. We were warned that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, but in our darkest moments you show such kindness to strangers." She approached him slowly, raising her tiny hands toward his face. "Are you ready?" Adnan nodded and closed his eyes. The moment her fingertips touched his temples, the world exploded into sensation. He felt her terror of dying alone, her grief at being cut off from her people, her desperate loneliness in this colony of giants. But underneath it all was something else, a fierce determination to survive, to prove her worth, to find belonging somewhere in the universe. In return, he felt her experiencing his own emotions, his empathy for outcasts, his deep-seated belief that no one should face extinction alone, his simple human conviction that helping others was just what decent people did. The synchronization lasted exactly 10 minutes, but it felt both eternal and instantaneous. When Alvina finally stepped back, her bioluminescent patterns had shifted to a warm golden glow, contentment, gratitude, and something that looked like friendship. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will not forget this kindness. Will you be okay now?" "For several months, yes. And perhaps I might find courage to approach the others in our community. Your human concept of compassion, I felt it so strongly. It gives me hope that understanding is possible." As Adnan watched his tiny neighbor leave, he realized something profound had happened. Not just the saving of a life, but the building of a bridge between species. In helping Alvina survive, he'd shown her something essentially human. That kindness toward strangers wasn't weakness, but strength. The Zephyrians had been wrong about humans being dangerous. They were dangerous. Dangerous to prejudice, to isolation, to the idea that anyone had to face their darkest moments alone. And perhaps that was humanity's greatest export to the stars. Not their technology or their ambition, but their stubborn insistence that everyone deserved compassion, even, especially at midnight when the world seemed darkest.